This next story I'm about to read is called A Mystery in the Desert. A determined look was now in his eyes as he got the dog out of the kennel and headed up to the Black Rock Desert for the last and final time. He looked over at Mutt and said, "I bet you would like me to stop at the best of ham in town to get you more bones, right?" "Well, you better not, for we aren't stopping this time." Mr. Rahman passed by the best ham in town and was now totally focused on what he was planning. He put in a CD of nothing but some Muslim reciting Quran Surah 9, the last and final surah of the Quran that was and is a declaration of war on human life, if it isn't paying jizya tax for not being Muslim. Mr. Rahman drove north. He went to press the button to go back to the beginning to hear Quran 9, 1 through 5 being recited again, but accidentally hit a button for an AM station. Right when Mr. Rahman was about to try again, he heard a voice on the radio say, "Islam is dying. It truly is in its death throes. The internet killed it more than the Kurds ever did by waking Muslims up to the stupid insanity they have brainwashed themselves into for the past 1400 years." Mr. Rahman cussed and was just about to try again for Mr. Rahman cussed and was just about to try again for hearing his Surah 9 CD when he heard a Muslim voice say, "Islam is not in its death throes. Allah is just testing us to see who is faithful and who is destined to hell. ISIS fell because it is not Islamic, and Muslims know that. If ISIS was successful at setting up the caliphate, it would be proof to all Muslims that those in ISIS were true Muslims." Mr. Rahman smiled and nodded. The non-Muslim voice then said, "ISIS was Islamic. They were fulfilling Quran 911 to the T. Everyone knows it now. The raping of little girls was totally allowed thanks to Quran 65 verse 4, where you can divorce a girl who hasn't even had a period yet. It was raping non-Muslim married women in the presence of their captured non-Muslim husbands, thanks to Sahih Muslim 834-32 and Sunnah Abu Dawud 220 and 50. 50's report of how the first part of Quran 424 was handed down that way. That says, quote, "Forbidden to you are married women." You can't have sex with married women, except, that's a key word that makes it so a Muslim like ISIS can have sex with someone's married wife, except what your right hand possess, slave or captured. And ISIS was doing that. Everything ISIS did that was evil had license to come about thanks to the blessing of that evil monster Allah from the Quran and Hadith. The Muslim fired back with, "You are wrong, you are wrong. You need to take your meds, dude." You need to take your meds, dude. Although the non-Muslim was making sense to Mr. Rahman, he remembered the Quran verse about how Allah blinds infidels so they don't see the truth and can't ever even find it. Mr. Rahman looked at Mutt the dog and said, "Maybe Shaitan makes us Muslims stupid so we lose all these debates to the kuffar? It seems supernatural how they make it so we can only defend Allah's religion by resorting to personal attack as our only defense." 2 hours later, Mr. Rahman stepped into a bar in Gerlach. It seemed to be the only one. Besides booze, the bartender was selling copies of an album he made called Mixing It Up Before 9/11, a CD containing electronica. Oh, I need to change this stuff. Containing electronic and trance music he used to play as a DJ before September 11th. Rahman ordered scotch on the rocks and a pack of cigarettes. Finding out that he couldn't smoke in such a bar, even in Gerlach, he decided to buy a bunch of tequila to take with him on the playa. He was planning on getting snockered there under the moonlit sky. When Mr. Rahman told the bartender his plans, minus the bomb testing, the bartender dried a glass and said, "It's actually pretty nice to be out there with no moon at all, just stars. The Black Rock Desert is not black at all, but light in color, and even when there is no moon, it gives it a dreamlike quality when your eyes adjust to the darkness. Just make sure you have a light on. Just make sure you have a light on, or you risk getting hit by some drunk who is driving through the darkness out there. They seem to do that a lot before Burning Man." Mr. Rahman downed his scotch and said, I've never been to Burning Man. It looks very Mecca-ish, in a pagan sort of way." The bartender smiled and said, "Burning Man has been a godsend to this godforsaken place, and I have been to Burning Man. I was there in 2001, right before the Muslims Allah Akbar our planes into buildings. I had a good time. The trance music, the sexy girls was with nothing on. I was there again. I was their age at the time. Most of them were yummy to look at. Unfortunately, there were the boys that were unfortunately there were the boys that way as well, making me feel envious. But really, I had a good time. When the man burned down, dust devils literally seemed to dance out from the fire. It was so cool. The smell of burning sage in the air, the beat of Al's DJ and other trance singers echoed in the distance of the cool breeze on your 20-year-old skin, and I had a herd of naked humanity, then ran to see how close we could get to the fire without being burned. We all then started circling it, going counterclockwise like they do with that creepy black box in Mecca. The words creepy black box in Mecca made Rahman clench his fist. The bartender went on and said, "You don't want to be in that crowd of humanity circling that fire if you have claustrophobia. Believe me, there is no way you can switch. There's no way you can switch direction. Just head in one direction. They somehow decide on. I got it. Yeah. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, when the man burned down, dust devils literally seemed to dance out from it. It was so cool. The smell of burning sage in the air, the beat of Alice DJ and other trance singers echoing in the distance as the cool breeze of the cool breeze on your 20-year-old skin. I and a herd of naked humanity then ran to see how close we could get to the fire without being burned. We all then started circling it, going counterclockwise like they do with that creepy black box in Mecca. The words creepy black box in Mecca made Mr. Rahman clench his fist. The bartender went on and said, "You don't want to be in that crowd of humanity circling that fire if you have claustrophobia. Believe me, there is no way you can switch directions. You just head in that one direction they somehow decide to head in, like a flock of birds or a school of fish. And for some reason, it ends up counterclockwise." "Like in Mecca," responded Rahman in a deep thought. "Like in Mecca," replied the bartender. Rahman felt a little uneasy to find pagans doing with a huge fire like something nearly exactly like those in Mecca do with the Kaaba every Hajj. The bartender went on and said, "You really have to love people if you're going to get trapped like that." And of course, I, being a people lover, loved it. Even though, for no reason at all, someone in that crowd punched me in the face and another squirted tear gas in my eyes. Well, I think it was tear gas, for it burned. Mr. Rahman smiled and thought of Koran 98:6 when the bartender said that, for it helped reaffirm that scripture saying non-Muslims were the worst of creation. I would be so pissed off if someone did those things to me out there," said Rahman. The bartender smiled and said, "No harm, no foul, but I must admit, the punch, the fire, the tear gas, the naked boys and girls, some with devil horns and antlers on their heads, it made me think, is this the way hell is? I mean, I was completely trapped, and I had no idea at all of just how hot the fire was until someone stepped out of the way, exposing me to all that infrared, or however you pronounce it. Then the most frightening and terrifying thing happened in all my life of being a human being. More people rushed to get near the fire, pushing the people ahead of them. Guess who was being pushed toward me? Guess who was being pushed toward the fire? Me, of course. And there was no way I could stop so many humans being pushed behind me. Luckily, I and the ring of people around that fire began to push back with great horror that was no doubt horror derived. We ended up squishing the people behind us, who no doubt started backing up themselves. And that is the only way I can think of that kept the circle around the burning man from piling in. The only way I can think of as to why the masses behind me didn't push me and the inner ring of people into the inferno is because those being squished must have joined in the pushback. Or it was God working a miracle against the stupidity of young naked humanity. Take your pick. Personally, I think it was a miracle. That God must have shown mercy to all us idiots out there. And as far as I can tell, no one was burned to death nor got into that fire. There were firemen with their backs to the fire. Firemen who no doubt tried to hold us back, but I don't know how they could be effective, for in your rush to get close to the fire, you forgot about them. You didn't know there were firemen until someone stepped out of your way. Rahman asked, "How much are you selling a bottle of tequila?" The bartender said it wouldn't be cheap if he bought a bottle from him, but he bought one off of him anyway. It was late afternoon as Mr. Rahman began to pull himself away from the bar. As he thought of all the stuff he was planning for the Reno casino, he noticed that it seemed to be he noticed what seemed to be two paper plates stapled together and nailed to the wall. What is that thing? It just looks like two paper plates. I think I'll end it here.